Welcome back, everybody, to your daily update on the state of the Malazan Empire, and we are ready to enter Book 4 of Memories of Ice, called Memories of Ice, just like Deadhouse Gate was called. The last book was called Deadhouse Gates. This time around, the last one is called like the book, and we get some really interesting shit going down. So buckle up. But before that, this is growing rather precociously. I'm not gonna say as precociously as certain other things, but holy shit, this is large at this point. Like, I mean, it begins to actually, look like a cape. I suppose. I guess like next time round, I actually need to stand up so you can actually see how how long it actually gets, because yeah, we're reaching the point where it starts looking like a cape, and this means that I need to start actually come up with an idea how to handle like the how to handle the top, like how to put on a cowl if there's going to be a cowl, that kind of thing. And I don't know how to do that yet, because my clever plan was to just start knitting and then figure it out as I go along. And well, I suppose I need to start to come up with some kind of idea. We'll see how that continues. I feel like I can add one more ball of wool. Like, that wool was packed in like 200-gram kind of like balls basically, and I am almost done with three of those, so it's roughly 600-gram heavy at this point, weighs roughly 600-gram, and I guess I can add another one before I really need to figure out how to do the shoulders and how to close it in front of the neck and like at the throat, and maybe add a cowl or hood or whatever. But yeah, we'll see how that works. Yeah, once again, I don't know how to do these things. I'm just trying out stuff. But let's try out how to get into Book 4 of Memories of Ice. Cheers. All right, so Book 4 is rather long. Once again, it's like, I don't know, 10 hours or so in the audiobook. And the last chapter is super long. I'm not going to talk about that one today because I'm not yet that far. I have, like in the audiobook, I have like 6 hours left roughly, which is basically the last two chapters and the epilogue. It's exactly that at this point. So I'm not going to go into why that last chapter is so long, even though I obviously already know these things. I'm gonna, bring up a couple of things today, see if there's like overarching themes. I don't feel like that, because like the general thing of those first three chapters of Memories of Isis, they do a lot of interesting side paths in the world building. And apart from that, they're just building up to that siege of Coral that we're gonna get later on. And there's a lot of like building up, setting up stuff for that for what will come, and not too many like super deep things there. So maybe I'll circle back to something that I forgot to talk about from book 3, but we'll see. All right, so which are the interesting things here? We get introduced to mott irregulars. Like, we actually like meet some of them. I mean, we've heard of them before, and now we meet some of them, and they're like sort of depicted as this weird kind of funny, pretend stupid kind of people that are nevertheless super like competent in what they're doing. Like, I don't know, obviously, because I am one of those people who don't go deep into the lore or whatever, but we obviously know that the Malazan world was discovered and like created for role-playing games, and the mott irregulars look so very much, or read so very much like a role-playing game creation to me. One of those things that you sort of come up on the spur of the moment, because they don't have like a very special kind of culture or anything behind it. It's more like one of those things that your game master comes up with, and then it becomes something of a running gag, and then suddenly it's canon in your world. It feels like that to me because of their like weird combination of comic relief, weirdness, but strange efficacy because apparently they're extremely good at what they're doing. I mean, it also kind of comes with that whole things are more than they seem kind of thing. That Krappa is also, Krupp, Group, whatever you want to call him, is also going for in a different way, obviously. But it kind of comes with the same thing, but with more comic relief in the way they show up. Almost a slapstick level of it, but a dangerous kind of slapstick. So that's one quick thing to look at there. It's like apparently they're doing their own thing. They know everything. They're we hear that they are kind of powerful against yeah, kind of powerful against magic users of against necromancers at least. Although they've obviously not yet challenged Beauchelin and Corporal Roach. Those two obviously show up again as well, which, interesting. We get another one of those, I don't want to say comic relief, but they're sort of like a returning joke at this point. I know that's not all they are, and it's rather grim, but they do kind of have this, at this point, especially uh, the whole interaction with the Mansaporis kind of has that feel to it at this point. So yeah, that's just like good fun all around there. We have a lot of this kind of stuff going there. I mean, we have this growing tension between the two armies. We have the growing tension between our between the Malazan part of the army and the Kaladin Broods part of the army, and that is definitely building, as well as we have this sense of building danger or tension with that looming siege or battle or whatever it's going to be in Coral. But we have a lot of kind of comic relief or elements that kind of lighten the mood in between the whole interactions between Krupp, and Hetan is definitely another one that comes across as more light-hearted than a lot of other interactions within the book come across. Is my feeling right now. There's probably some deeper meaning in there, which I don't know. We'll see or hear about later on. But the whole way is done rather lightheartedly, which is well done because it kind of makes the darker parts or the more strenuous parts of being soldiers and stuff like that. It makes those contrasts sharper to have those light moments in between. That's cool. So I kind of appreciate those moments. We have another scene with Tuck the Younger and the Seer Domin, who apparently we still don't know his name. He's just called a Seer Domin, but he seems to kind of fall back into a human role beside his fanatical faith to his seer. And I'm not going to go back to the whole question of what the fuck those people believe, because I don't think we'll ever get an answer to that. That's just going to be one of those big holes that I might just be the only one looking at. But we see that like return of a bit of humanity within the seer domain there. Which obviously is good. The question is why this is the case. It might just be a part of the fact that every time we've seen Tuck the Younger so far, he's definitely the kind of person that has this effect on people that he's apparently very good at making getting some kind of rapport with other people. He's a likable fellow, and I understand why. He's cool. and manages to say the right things even if he doesn't believe he's doing it on purpose. He has this ability of making friends and stirring emotions in other people. I mean, he even managed that with tools, so that's quite the achievement there. Or yeah, sort of, kind of. So that's like another thing, like an overarching thing I feel within the whole book at this point. I just kind of had this revelation in this moment. So watch me having thoughts. It's not going to happen too often. So no, what I meant is that the overall idea, like, it kind of fits with the book title, Memories of Ice, that the overall arch, or not arch, like theme of a lot of this part of the book is very much about people rediscovering, like a reawakening, like a burgeoning of especially emotions, their humanity in a way. We have the whole relationship, romance thing with Whiskey Jack and Corlat going on there. We have the reawakening or awakening or whatever of friendship between Whiskey Jack and Amanda Rake there going on. We have Tool regather, like rekindling of humanity or emotions within Tool, both in that conversation with Kilawa and obviously with Tok the Younger. So that's an interesting thing there. Yeah, I don't know. It just feels like, and this kind of, in a way, resonates for me at least with this whole memories of ice, but also like a thawing of ice. Basically, you have this metaphor in like all kinds of places, and it's a cheap metaphor of people thawing out and their emotions awakening again. And you can go in all these like spring metaphors and shit like that. I don't want to go that far, but in general, the overall, like, not the overarching theme, but one of the more driving themes within at least this latter part of Memories of Ice, maybe just this fourth book, but also I feel like partly the third book already, you have this like burgeoning, this thawing out. You have the rebirth in a way of the cult of Tog and Fenderay, with the dedication or pledging of the Grey Swords. You have all of these things, like something is coming, maybe something that was already like that the people involved felt was lost or frozen in the past somewhere, is coming back and reawakening in a way. This sense of reawakening is something that I feel is rather strong in this latter half of Memories of Ice in a way. I feel that sounds like something that I could write down in my paper for at least high school. I feel like that would work. Sort of. All right, now that we've actually found something interesting, let's see what else is interesting in this in the part that I've read so far. And there's a lot of world building stuff happening like on the side. And I'm not going to spoil anything here because Erickson kind of puts that spoiler kind of hint in there already. But the scene with the Tist Edor, I mean, they were like kind of teasered before. You remember when we first learn about the Barghast talking about fighting the Tist Edor, with them still giving them their different name. And then we learn that the what's it called? The Moranth actually meeting some Tist Edor in the Moranth Mountains, and I don't know, committing to some kind of alliance or working together or whatever, which turns the like Moranth in their own thing. And Twist, another thing like they're like with his reawakening thing, like Twist, who's apparently dying. Oh, and have I managed? I forgot with that thing, the Barghast gods reawakening. Yeah, you know, that whole, the theme of burgeoning or reawakening of forces, both on the human level when we're talking about emotions and on the cosmic level when we're talking about gods, is strong in the last latter half of Memories of Ice, and I feel that's something to keep in mind. But to return, yeah, with Twist, he becomes rather loquacious of the book. It's like he becomes rather talkative almost near the end, and it talks about this whole thing with the Tistidor. And then they actually find a dead Tistidor on the beach there, like on the shoreline, the bridge burners. And then Paran actually goes and finds the Throne of Shadows. And if you read like half, like rather more actively and take heed, and if you have already looked at what like later on books will be called in the series, later volumes will be called, it kind of sticks out that there is mentioning of the emperor of these midnight tides in what the shadows say to our good friend Genoas Paran when he touches the throne or goes close to the throne. And I'm obviously not going to elaborate on that. I just found it interesting because I kind of missed that the first time round, obviously, because I didn't think about it, but I kind of missed that also the second time round, I feel, or at least I couldn't remember that I came across that the last time round. So I noticed it this time round. Isn't that cool? And that's something that I feel is important to keep in mind because it's so easy within these books to get kind of lost between, like, this continent jumping and narrative jumping and stuff like that we've had already. Um, it's kind of important, and it's basically what makes the reread so extremely valuable with Malazan is this idea that you notice how much of that stuff that you kind of don't read the first time around and ignore, and then you're confused when you're thrown on the next continent and stuff like that. And when you read it again and you suddenly realize that there's all these small hints and connections going on at the same time. Like, we obviously already met Tist Idor in Deadhouse Gates as well, like on the Cylinder with our good friends um, Stormy and Gessler and Truth. And speaking of the Cylinder, we get a reunion or like a re-meet with our good friend Bodang, who is apparently now Knight of High House Death. From what we can glean with that scene with the Maybe and Cole and Murillo. We also get some interesting, like, small Cole and Murillo moments there about Cole's past. And I found that very just nice because with all these warriors going on, all this other stuff and the military parts of the series and all the majory, it's nice to sometimes come to these people like Cole and Murillo who have basically stayed the same and are just these rather well-rounded characters in a way that they are not actually described in that much detail, but after Gardens of the Moon, you kind of feel that you sort of know what kind of people Cole and Murillo are. You see how they are trying to move on, how they're struggling with growing older, like Murillo is struggling with growing older, and Cole is trying to not fall back into being a drunk. And all these things in there are just it was just like one of those small human moments between all this like gathering of more and more powers and shit like that, and suddenly you have this small human moment of two people trying to just do the right thing and do the human thing there. And I feel there is gonna be a discussion on the whole maybe thing coming up at some point when I really feel like it or have thought more about it, about the idea of once again, agency when it comes to the end of life and terminal illness or something like that. But this is not the place for it right now. I need to think more on that. So yeah, we had that element in there. That's those small human moments, which once again help to add poignancy to all the other stuff going on. It's kind of this like, this is why we're doing this, so people can still be human and people can still try to do the real thing. All right, what else? What else to talk about? I forgot to talk about that before. Um, in book three, when we were talking about book three, but the general, I really, really liked, in a way, the way that Buick's arc or character like plot line is sort of not ended, or sort of when he gets like the gift from Karuli, he becomes a soul taken hawk, sparrowhawk, I forget, some kind of raptor in any case. I'm not good with those birds. um this giving him a way to distance himself, the way this handled, that he flies away, and put the distance that he can put between him and the world kind of puts things in perspective. I just found that a very, very moving way to end that, like from the also from the symbolic level, but also just from the like human level, like this giving him a way to actually deal with things by putting them into perspective in a way. um, Talking about something less positive to end it all up for today, because I feel there's not that much more to talk about today. Let's talk about mechanized warfare. Yeah, not exactly a nice topic, but the end of that, of chapter 23, and the slaughter of the trap that the bridge burners build for the Panyan forces on that hill, and when they just basically slaughter everyone with the help of Moranth munitions and sorcery in a really brutal way. And Paran is kind of shocked about their efficiency. Holy shit, it's really brutal, and we actually get a scene, which, I mean, it is really important to have this kind of scene to actually show how efficient the Malazan army can be, because so far in the series we haven't seen that. We have seen how brutally powerful mages can be on the Siege of Pale and everything, but apart from that, um, in more or less all of Deadhouse Gates, we have of course seen the Malazan army and the Wiccans fight bravely and everything, but in the end they're all dead, and they basically just fight for their survival. But this scene just shows how ruthless and brutal the Malazan army is with the help of the Moranth munitions. And I feel that's, I don't know if you've ever looked at like first reports and like people that like, yeah, sources from the First World War, when you have like these first big improvements of like of gas, of war, like poisoned gas and machinery, like first ideas of tanks and stuff like that. And you have these moments, like these people that come back, these eyewitness reports that are just like, even from the winning side of a battle, are just so brutally shocked by the efficiency and by the level of slaughter that they have, that those new tools have taken. And the idea that you will reach that point where this obviously problematic, like highly problematic idea of warfare being about bravery and being about stupid masculinity and stuff like that, and personal skill, where that all of that is basically taken away by mechanizing it and modernizing it. And this is something that I feel is an interesting comment. It just reminded me on that scene, just because of its like quick, efficient brutality that the Malazans there portray, no, not portray, but show basically. That's just holy shit. That's just brutal in a way. So yeah, I feel like that's a rather sad point to end for today. But I have other things to do, so I'll better get to those, and I'll talk to you tomorrow about more of Memories of Ice Book 4, and maybe already the end, or just, a bit more rambling. There's still some opportunities on Like some things I didn't touch on today that I'll try to elaborate on tomorrow. There's like the discussion between Hamburg Tor and Whiskey Jack that needs to be addressed and stuff like that. All right. Anyway, I hope you had a good day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Until then, cheers.